Enemy flank down. Enemy flank down. Protect your flag. Carrier kill.
Hey, I'm Ryan McCaffrey from IGN here at 343 Industries. I'm joined by Kynan Pearson, the lead multiplayer level designer on Halo 4. Kynan, you are going to give us a tour of all 10 Halo 4 multiplayer maps, and which one are we taking a look at now?
So now we're going to take a look at Complex. So Complex is one of our mid-scale, mid-large scale maps. It's got small vehicle support, so you can use the Ghost and Mongoose on the map. And like the name implies, it's a complex layout with lots of ins and outs and different avenues that you can use. This is basically Galileo base, and it's kind of a makeshift base that the UNSC had put on the surface of Requiem.
Okay.
They're doing some research here, and they're extracting a Forerunner artifact.
Well, let's take a look. So really, I've never personally been able to get a great handle on the best use for a Mongoose. Is it really just from getting from point A to point B, or hauling flag carriers? What's on Complex? What's the best use for a Mongoose?
Well, the Mongoose is actually really good for objective game types. So if you have somebody capturing the flag, they can get on the back of the Mongoose. So if they have a driver, it's a really quick way with a coordinated team to kind of do flag captures and to get from objective type to objective type. One of the other things, though, is you can splatter people. It gets you out of bad combat situations. It's also a good way to get back to your teammates.
Yeah.
So it's a multi-purpose vehicle, and there's a lot of things that the Mongoose does really well. It's just not it doesn't have an express purpose of doing damage or being an effective vehicle for combat situations unless your rider has a power weapon.
So this is a pretty good size level. It's a little reminiscent of some of the set of Forge maps from Reach, I'd say, maybe just as in general. But what are some of the combat points in here? It looks like you can hop up on some of these rooftops.
Yeah, absolutely. Complex was one of the maps that during development, whenever we had all of our custom loadouts in play, we needed to find a way to have a map that had lots of different and distinct combat encounter areas and stuff for objectives. One of the things that we did was we knew that we wanted the idea of having these kind of this strategic locations like the rooftops. So we've got these counter rooftop combat areas that allow you multiple routes to get up onto these. So you can basically access the rooftops very easily from any direction, regardless of having the jetpack. But also, while this gives you some long lines of sight to cover certain specific areas, you're left fully exposed. There's no cover up here. Getting back, I guess, to the original point that I was talking about with the distinct purposes for the locations in the map, a lot of times when you have sprint by default or vehicles, your maps can tend to draw people towards a center location if you're not doing some very specific things to prevent that. So while this is a center location in the map's been tuned so that the majority of combat doesn't actually happen in this area specifically. This is just a nexus or a junction point to allow you to access different areas of the map. So we were we made a lot of specific choices to open up separate combat areas all across the map. So you have the interior area in here, which is part of this nexus for connecting the various portions. But you have this location right here where they're extracting the Forerunner artifact. So this ends up being a bit of a combat space back in here, control-wise, just because it's a good flow through for vehicles and it gives you full access to all of the routes of the map. The other areas of control are the building tops, the cross rooftops, which again I said have these accessible points, these ramps that give you easy access to reach these from various sections of the map.
So it seems like all these rooftops and outdoor expanses a bit, very battle rifle, carbine, DMR, light rifle friendly on this map.
Yeah, mid to long range weapons will be very effective on this map. There are ample opportunities to have some close range encounters whenever you're inside some of the structures, and kind of reinforcing these little building areas. But you'll definitely want to have a mid-range weapon on you because it's strategically a good choice for a map of this type.
Now, how has this map evolved over the course of the design? What was it originally sketched up as, and sort of how, as you guys were playtesting it, how has it changed?
So one of the things that I personally love in Halo, and something that Halo does really well, is it allows you to have combat while you're jumping around. So you can fire while you're jumping freely, and having these little ninja routes and little shortcuts for jump routes was something that I wanted to express through a map that allowed for some more strategic play for advanced and mid-level players. So the level's accessible and easy to get into, but again, it's a complex layout with lots of ins and outs. So one of the things that happened early on was I was including a lot more jump routes to get onto the top of certain structures and surfaces. Over time, those have evolved so that some of the jump portions have been removed to make it easier, but as you can see, like this is
Plenty of ramps.
Plenty of ramps, and that's one of the areas where the map has evolved and changed pretty significantly over the course of its creation. But as you can see, you're still required to use the jumps to get into certain areas and to get into choice locations, but they're not required nearly as much as in the original version.
I'm seeing, of course, we have the light vehicles, but we've got a pretty big expanse of outdoor ground here. No Warthog. Why the lack of Warthog by default here?
Over the course of development on the map, we made more of the routes support just on foot more with cover and kind of encroached into some of the playable space area. So while Warthogs can get around here fairly easily, whenever you have two Warthogs engaging each other, sometimes they'll get cramped up in some of these areas. So we decided to remove those from the initial map selection. So Ghosts, however, you can get into all kinds of little tight nooks and crannies, but because they can strafe, it's easier to manage having the Ghost on areas like these rampings because you can
you're driving on the sidewalk.
You can get through the tighter doorways because you can strafe.
Yeah, you could be, if you do decide to head up onto those areas, you can easily be grenaded or boarded.
Absolutely, because they're much tighter areas. It gives ample opportunity for people to steal your vehicle from you, to board you, to destroy your vehicle if you're trying to get through those little choke points and nooks and crannies. But there's plenty of little routes and stuff that get around here really easily, giving you lots of time to splatter people and get around the map fairly quickly whenever you're in.
I guess it'd be worth asking about the Banshee as well. It seems like it could be a fun Banshee level, but I'm not seeing one of those by default either.
Yeah, because this is built for more 4v4 and smaller scale than BTB maps, we tend to shy away from using the Banshee because it's a dominant vehicle if you don't have a coordinated team able to take it down.
That is true.
So one of the last areas in this map, which we hadn't really shown too much, is this back silo area, which again gives you shots into the center structure, and it gives you an area to be covered while you're engaging people that are trying to control the rooftops.
What maps do you like, or excuse me, what game types do you personally like to play on this map?
This is, for me, Infinity Slayer is awesome on this map. I like Flood as well. And actually, the Oddball has a lot of potential here because of the distinct differences in all of the areas and all of the various strategies that we've seen evolve over time as people have tried to control certain locations, which are advantageous to having the Oddball in.
Well, that is Complex, one of 10 Halo 4 maps. We are profiling them all with the multiplayer designers from 343. So for more on Halo 4 and Halo 4 multiplayer, keep it locked right here to IGN.